Alright, welcome to the video, guys. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the Phage. Phage is a primary weapon. It's an infested weapon. It's going to shoot out, I think base it shoots out like 7 tendrils, but you know, with our multi-shot, of course, we're going to get it up to a lot more than that. And they start like really wide. They start really wide and with an extreme short range. Like almost you have to be like, you know, face to face with the enemy. And as you aim in, as you shoot, the beams will start converging, and it'll be like more of a single target type of weapon. So, and the range will become, you know, quite longer, especially when you put on galvanized acceleration. That's going to almost double it once you get, you know, your conditionals done. Okay, so for this build, we're going to be using galvanized hell for multi-shot, galvanized savvy for status chance and direct damage per status type, critical deceleration and primary ravage for crit chance, crit damage, shotgun barrage for fire rate. Hey, savvy. Primed charge shell and toxic barrage for corrosive. And then blaze in the last slot here for a little bit more flat damage and heat. And then again in the exile slot, we're going to put galvanized acceleration, just because this is a beam weapon, so there is a like a maximum range where it'll stop hitting targets. Galvanized acceleration is just going to increase that range. It's going to increase it like pretty small right off the bat, but then once you get your conditionals, it'll be like, I think it's like 90% more. So it's almost twice as long once you meet your conditionals. And then in the last slot here, we're going to use primary deadhead, just for a large flat damage boost, a little bit more of a headshot multiplier, and negative weapon recoil, which the weapon doesn't really have recoil, so it's okay. All right. Now, in this series, I take a weapon and I test it on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with Warframe abilities. I don't get kills with Warframe. I don't like use pet weapons or pet abilities. So because of that, we're going to be using an Anaros. No mods on him or no arcanes increase weapon damage. And our pet is going to have no weapon, and the pet itself will have no mods that increase weapon damage. Okay, we're going to do a 10-minute Kuva survival to start with. Going to kill some trash and some acolytes, and then after that we'll do about like a 10-minute Lua conjunction survival. So I'm going to cast my 4 here to double my armor, and that's the last time I'll use an ability.
Then steal their Kuba catalysts. Predictable. As expected, Grenier have shut down the environmental systems, sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or attach Kuba catalysts to begin harvesting.
Another strength of this weapon is it has extremely good ammo economy. Every damage tick, as far as I read from the wiki, every like damage tick is actually only like 0.5 ammo. This has potential to do a lot of statuses just because it has huge base multi-shot to start with. So even though the status chance isn't like, you know, it's kind of like hybrid levels. It's not really like amazing status chance. You know, I think with our current setup, I forgot what it is, something like 40-ish%. Might even be like a little bit lower than that. Even with the 40% status chance, you're still going to be seeing a shitload of statuses just because... hey, Trixie. Thanks for watching. You're still going to be seeing a shitload of statuses just because of the crazy multi-shot. This is the Phage. It's an infested weapon. I believe it comes from the dojo. I think it's one of the dojo blueprints. I could be wrong on that, though. It's either a dojo blueprint or it's a market blueprint, one or the other. It's probably one of the strongest single beam weapons in the game. You know, it's not like the new core that, like, chain beams. Those are really strong, you know, the chain beams, of course, because they can hit many, many targets at once. Cool, thanks, Trixie. But as far as a single, you know, target beam weapon, the amount of status it produces, and, you know, it's also hybrid, so it has the potential to do crits as well. You know, as you see, it's not going to be doing like orange or red crits. It's going to be doing primarily yellow. But that's kind of what you get with a hybrid weapon. Hybrid weapons, you're kind of looking at like yellow, maybe orange crits. So something I didn't go over, Trixie, is the weapon actually, and I should have said this, but I'll when I do the build explanation at the end, I'll go over it. The weapon does have innate viral, so that's something that makes this weapon very strong. Because most of the time you're going to put viral on your weapon, you don't need to do it on this. Instead, you can go with the other strong element of corrosive, and then you know, your last element. I went back and forth, and you know, if you scroll back or wait until I go over the build again, you'll see that there's like a misforma somewhere. I went back and forth between the last element being cold, because I have the big primed cold mod. That would just increase base damage by quite a bit. And heat. And I decided on heat. I feel like heat combos with corrosive a lot better. Normally, if I was to like do a regular shotgun, it would be viral cold, because you have the two large viral electric, because you have the two large shotgun prime mods. But for this weapon, because you get viral right off the bat, you know, you're going to put on corrosive, and I was going to go with cold to use the other primed element mod. But I feel like on this weapon, it's just heat and corrosive go way better. Yep, heat armor strips, corrosive armor strips. So especially on Grenier, it's a super good combo. You know, I don't have any external armor strip on my on these Grenier right now. It's just what's coming from the weapon, and it's kind of just chewing through the guys. Let's get another life support. We should be getting an Acolyte pretty soon. I actually have not used this on the Acolyte yet, so I'm kind of interested to see how it does. Acolytes can only have statuses stacked to 4, so I think this will be... I think it'll be okay against the Acolyte, but I don't think it's going to like be an Acolyte killer because of that. Like, I don't think it's going to, like, you know, insta-kill the Acolyte because of the like status cap on Acolytes. Now, because this is a hybrid build, if you got a Riven with crit chance, you probably could make this go into orange crits, probably. I think this weapon has a high enough dispo where it would probably be pretty easy to get into orange crits with just like a single Riven with crit chance. But to get it into red crits, I don't believe you'd be able to do it, just because this is a hybrid weapon. It doesn't start with amazing crit. All right, so we have Anks somewhere down there. Oh, no, there he is. He just jumped me. He came from behind. Let me see if I can get a good piece of terrain where it's kind of flat and I could just focus on him. Yeah, it's doing pretty poor damage against the Acolyte. At least the shield. Once we get past the shield, we'll see how it does. Corrosive does tend to do pretty good against, armor. So it could just be the shield that it's really poor against, which is likely what's happening. So shield's gone. I'm going to reload, go over here, and try to get a good beam on him, and we'll see how it does. Now, it's still doing a little bit poor against this guy. So, yeah, as you can see, this weapon might struggle with Acolytes. Good against Eximuses. Anything that, where the statuses can stack on the enemy, like past 4. It's just that these Acolytes have a cap on their statuses that they can have on them. It'll kill the Acolyte. It's just not gonna be a great Acolyte killer. Of course, in like normal gameplay, when you're not just using a single weapon, you could have a secondary that kills much quicker.
Running out of time. Consider extraction.
Let me run to a life support. Acolyte's going to follow me over there, hopefully. He also teleports, so hoping he doesn't teleport me until I hit this. Nice. All right, let's get back in there, try to kill this Acolyte once and for all. And I don't think we'll get to the second Acolyte just because this first one's taking so long to kill. So as you can see, like, this is the weakness of the weapon. It's really good against everything else. It was slamming through trash enemies, slamming through Eximuses. Acolyte came, and you're struggling pretty hardcore with it. But again, normal gameplay, like if you're using Warframe abilities, if you have another secondary that's better at Acolyte killing, you would just, you would use that, of course. But I just wanted to show how this weapon itself functions.
Hold out as long as you can.
Angst is somewhere. So at 10 minutes, we're at 418 kills. When I do these runs, pretty average weapons usually hit at about like 350 to 400. So, this is kind of like hitting in the average tier. Having the Acolyte up and like staggering me over and over is also hurting like my DPS to little guys. So, without the Acolyte being up, I might have been something like 500, but I would still say this is a pretty average weapon. All right, let's see. Let's try to. Last time I tried to face tank Anks, it didn't go too well, but I might have to try to do it to get this guy killed. pretty painful, but we'll get him eventually. All right, he is dead. So, you know, you can see that this is a very painful weapon to fight the Acolyte with. So that was good information to have there. Because I kind of went into that Acolyte fight not knowing how this thing was going to perform. I didn't know it was going to be that bad. So we'll get to Extraction. I'm going to take a look at the build real quick just so I can answer your question there, Trixie, like about the IPS stats on it. Because I don't know off the top, I can't remember off the top of my head. And then we'll queue up that Lua Conjunction, because Lua Conjunction is going to be mixed enemies. It's not just all going to be Grineer. And we'll see how far the weapon can take us there, if we can get to about 10 minutes there.
They fought well. Good deaths, all.
Yeah, some beam weapons don't have IPS, and that's why I can't remember off the top of my head. I believe it does, but I could be wrong. It does have Viral Innate. Actually, it might not have IPS now that I'm thinking of it.
Ready to kick.
Yeah, no IPS stats. So you're going to have the Viral Innate, and then you have, you know, whatever you put on the weapon. So I have Corrosive and Heat on here. Okay, let's queue up that Lua Conjunction. We'll try to get to about 10 minutes there. Sometimes average weapons or weak weapons can't make it past 5 minutes, though. So we'll see if this guy can get us past 5 minutes. Just because at the 5-minute mark, you have Thraxes and the Acolyte spawning at the same time. I don't think this will be bad against the Thraxes, because Thraxes can have like many stacks of statuses on them. It's just Acolytes that are, you know, resistant to that kind of gameplay. I'm going to use my 4 to double my armor, and that's going to be the last ability I use. Everything else will be the weapon. So these enemies will start at about 180 to 200. Again, it has no problem chewing through these little guys. I would even say it's like an above average weapon when it comes to, you know, killing small trash mobs. It's just that it really shows its weakness once you get like the Acolyte or anything that has a cap to statuses, like Void Angels probably as well.
All manner of Orchid technology may work here due to the Circulus's proximity. If you have a Necromech, you may use it.
And just to kind of show off the hipfire mode, you know, it does quite well. It's very like wide. It just has like really, really low range. You almost have to be right up in their face to use it. So I wouldn't like really suggest the hipfire mode. You know, like these guys, I can't hit that guy until I'm this far, and it's like not even hit. All the tendrils aren't even hitting him there. So I would definitely suggest using the aimed in mode most of the time when you're using this. Another thing I should have mentioned about the Phage is that it has to there's like a 0.5 second time where when you aim in and you go to shoot, it goes from wide to narrow, like of a beam. And that 0.5 second window can't be changed by anything. There's nothing that changes that. Like fire rate doesn't affect it or anything. So anytime you let off of the trigger or have to switch targets or sprint or anything that's going to interrupt like your firing, you're going to have to go and like redo that 0.5 second window into the focused beam. Hey, Asenix. Yeah, it does really well. I don't know if you were here when I was fighting the Acolyte. It does really well against trash. It does really trash against the Acolyte. So, this is definitely not an Acolyte killer. But like I was saying before, though, normal gameplay, you could always use a Warframe ability or a secondary or something to deal with Acolytes. So I'm going to pop this right here before the Acolyte comes. So we have Misery. I can't remember which one of these guys uses Turbulence. If it's Misery, we might have to use melee weapons on him, but we'll see. He's taking full damage right now. If he's the one that puts Turbulence on, though, we'll have to switch to melee. Now, at 5 minutes, when the Thraxes spawn, we do have to switch to Thraxes because they're going to be the main priority to take out. So as you can see, this is the weapon's weakness right here is the Acolyte.
The sentient has detected you. Fighters incoming. The longer you hold out, the deeper I can search.
All right, so now we have Thraxes coming in. We're going to switch right over to them. I think it's going to do okay against Thraxes as long as I can not keep getting perma-staggered.
They will drain your life support unless they are destroyed.
All right, so we have one Thrax down. Two Thraxes down. It was very good at killing those. Very good. So Thraxes are dead. We might need to run to that group of life supports, hit like 2 of them. Hopefully drag the Acolyte with us, and then we can kill the Acolyte over there. Yeah, it is doing a lot better than the other one. That's true. That other one was so painful with this thing. Oh, my goodness. And I spent half the time on the floor staggered. All right, enemies are starting to trickle back in. Let's see if we can kind of meet the Acolyte halfway here. And we can get some of the enemies to farm the little yellow life supports from. Yeah, it got past 5 minutes. Technically the 5-minute Acolyte is still up and roaming the map somewhere. But other than the Thraxes, it did get past the 5 minutes. All right, there we go. We got him down. It might have taken a few minutes, but, we eventually did it through pure attrition. And it's okay to have a weapon that is bad at killing a certain thing, because that's why you have a secondary slot or a melee slot or Warframe abilities. So, you can kind of make up for that weakness. Hey, this is great at trash, but it's really trash at Acolytes. So I'll use something else to kill the Acolyte when he spawns, something like that. All right, let's head over to those life supports slowly and try to get some enemies to spawn up that way. I'm going to hit this one here. Probably hit this one right off the bat because I'll be at about 70. And then we're just going to kind of hope enemies start spawning pretty soon here so we can farm up those yellows. Might meet them a little bit halfway so I don't have to wait too long. There's a yellow. Alright, come on guys. Come into the big room and start spawning in here. So I found while doing this series, when I'm just using a single weapon to kill things, that like the life supports I'm always fighting with, and the spawns, life supports and the spawns I'm always fighting with. Nope, I think some enemies spawn back here finally. So we're at 9 minutes, 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, we'll have the second group of Thraxes spawning. I'm not too worried about them because it actually did really, really well against the Thraxes. It's just the second Acolyte that I'll be a little bit nervous about. But I'm not sure if he'll spawn there just because it took us so long to kill the first one. He may spawn way after. Alright, so we got Thraxes. They're turning into their little ethereal forms. There's one right there. Bam, he's dead. You know, some weapons really struggle with Thraxes, so for that to kill that thing that quickly is really good. That guy was stripped, and I don't have any abilities that strip. That's just a weapon. So. Actually, maybe I did use an operator ability. I think I might have used an operator ability. That might be why that one guy was stripped. Okay, so 10 minutes in, we're at 344 kills. I'm going to make my way to extraction. So again, like average weapons will, when I do these, will get to about like 350 to 400 kills. They get a little bit less on Lua just because you spend more time fighting bigger guys with the Thraxes and whatnot. So you know that's about normal. We got to about like a little bit over 400 with the. I'm running my mouth instead of looking at the extraction here. You spend a little bit more time fighting the big guys, and so you know it hurts your kills. So it's understandable that this one was like 350 and the other one was 400. So this is about like in line with like the average weapons that I've checked out. I still really like it though. I didn't expect the Phage to be doing this good.
They know you're here. Prepare for sentient fighters.
I'll go to extraction. I'll go over the build one more time. And alternatives to the build too. So there is like an alternative slot.
Very good.
Okay, so it's the Phage. It's a primary weapon. It is a beam weapon, but it counts as a shotgun. It's a beam weapon, but it counts as a shotgun. It has innate viral on it, so there's no need to put viral on it. It has very high multi-shot base. I believe the base is 7. Let me see here. 7, yeah, 7. And so, you know, Galvanized Hell, even without conditionals, you're at almost 14 multi-shot, which is crazy. And that's why this thing, it doesn't have great status, has 37%, but you're still getting ridiculous amounts of status out of this just because of the multi-shot. Because you have 37% chance per instance of damage to produce a status, but base, without even Galvanized Hell having its conditionals, you have 14 instances of damage. So that's why this thing can stack crazy statuses. So, okay, let's go over the build here. Galvanized Hell for multi-shot. Galvanized Savvy for status chance and direct damage per element. Critical Deceleration and Prime Ravage for crit chance, crit damage, because this is a hybrid weapon. It does have a respectable crit chance. It's not amazing, but it has a respectable crit chance. You'll be getting mostly yellow crits with this. Shotgun Barrage for fire rate. Now, in these two slots, like on a normal shotgun, we put viral here, but this weapon has viral, and so instead we're going to go with the second best element, which is corrosive. So we're going to use Prime Charge Shell and Toxic Barrage. But if you don't have Prime Charge Shell, you can either use the 90 or you can use the 60-60 electric. Both will perform similarly, but I would say probably the 60-60 might even be better because it'll give you a little bit more status chance. And then in the last slot here, I did a lot of testing with this because I like to use the primed element mod sometimes. And cold's a pretty good element because not a lot of enemies are resistant to cold. But I found out that you know, heat and corrosive go really well together. And that was one thing I took into consideration. You know, corrosive and cold are just kind of you know, they're not really that great together. It's just more, it's a prime mod, so it's going to increase your damage by a lot. But Blaze having plus 60 damage and plus 60 heat, like you're not losing that much damage by putting Blaze on compared to Prime Chill and Grasp. And in fact, you're kind of making a little bit more damage because heat and corrosive mix really well. They armor strip together. So I feel like Blaze is really good, but there are options. That's why this is kind of like there's an alternative to Blaze if you don't like that. So I'm going to type in heat because I think heat is the way to go on this weapon. The 60-60 mod is going to be the other alternative. Just because it's going to do less damage, right? It goes from, you know, these are paper stats. It doesn't really take into account conditionals. But paper stats, it's going to go like almost half the damage by putting Scattering Inferno over Blaze. But it is going to increase your status by a little bit more. And so you're going to be producing like quicker viral procs, quicker heat procs, things like that. So I think they're very similar probably in damage output. I personally go with Blaze. But if you don't have Blaze, Scattering Inferno is as good and questionably better. So, you know, you can kind of test with those two, which you like better. And then finally here, or not finally, we still have the Arcane, but in this slot here, we're going to use the Galvanized Acceleration. So this is a beam weapon. And so this is just going to increase your beam length. Because the beam length is actually kind of pitiful, so you do want to increase it. Otherwise, you're only going to be fighting at like close range and kind of close medium-ish range. So with Galvanized Acceleration, it increases it by 30%, and then you get 2 more 30% added on top of that when you get kills. So 90% beam length. So almost twice as big. And then for Arcanes, you have 2 options. You can go with Primary Deadhead or Primary Merciless. They're both going to give you a large 360% damage boost. But Merciless is going to let you reload a little bit quicker. And Deadhead's going to give you a little bit more headshot multiplier. And so I go with Deadhead. Deadhead also gives you less weapon recoil, but this weapon doesn't really have recoil at all, so that's not really important. I go with Deadhead just because I like the little bit extra headshot multiplier. So, yep. That's the build here. Hey, thanks, Gigi. Thanks for the subscribe. That's the build here. That should be about it for the weapon. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up on YouTube. And thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Bye.